Good morning. If you're new here or visiting us, you might not have heard me talk about my cousin Ozzy. He lives in a small rural town in South Dakota. And after he came back from the war, he never really put himself to work. He just hangs out at Lars's Tavern all day, considers himself the ambassador of the town, and he greets people as they come and go. Well, about a quarter of a mile from his house, there's a good-sized pond, and all around the pond, there are fruit trees growing. So one hot day in August, Cousin Ozzy decided to go down to the pond with a 5-gallon bucket and pick fruit. Well, when he got there, he was surprised to see that the Women's Auxiliary from the Second Lutheran Church of that town were there also to pick fruit for their annual Pie Fest fundraiser. But he was even more surprised when he saw that the heat must have gotten to him because 6 of these women had decided to go skinny dipping. Well, when they saw Ozzy, they all ducked down so only their head was above the water, and they started yelling at him, "Go away, get out of here, quit spying on us." Without missing a beat, Ozzy said, "Don't worry, I'm not here to gawk at you." He held up his 5-gallon bucket. He said, "I'm here to feed the alligators." Okie doke. The subject matter for the lesson day is on faith. And faith makes life easy. It makes life tolerable. It gives us a certain foundation, a steadiness that allows us to go through the ups and downs in life. Being faithless or not having faith in something, a higher power or life or in yourself, makes life very difficult. It is riddled with anxiety and worry and all sorts of different fears. Each and every one of you know that. You've all faced problems and challenges before where you thought that you wouldn't be able to handle the situation before you, or you thought that it was going to take you down or it was going to embarrass you in front of other people, and it just threw your life up in the air in shambles. Only because we were focusing on the problem rather than focusing on the faith, knowing that we have within us whatever it takes to move beyond the situations and circumstances that are difficult in life. Stop and think for a moment about all the things that you have been through in your entire life, all the difficult times, the painful things, the sorrows, the tragedies, the losses. You have been through a lot. All of us have. Yet here you sit, in good condition, with a good mindset. You made it through because you had what you needed at the time to move through the difficult times. If you're going through a problem right now or facing a big challenge that you just don't think you can overcome, know that you have the power within you, you have the wisdom within you, you have the strength within you to rise above and move beyond whatever the situation might be. Nothing can permanently hamper your peace of mind and your sense of well-being. In 1 Corinthians it says, "Do not be dismayed and do not fear at the challenges that come into your life. For those are normal things that come to all people. But know that you have within you and that you will be able to pull out whatever you need at the time to move beyond the challenge." But all of that takes faith. We don't turn inward to find the answers. We don't turn inward to find the strength unless we have faith in something that tells us that it is there, that it's being provided for us, unless we have faith in God, a higher power, however you define that. Some people define it as nature. Some people define it as the spiritual essence of all life. Some people define it as the old man up there on a throne that is governing the universe. And it doesn't make any difference what you put your faith in, but it has to be a higher power, something greater than yourself that provides for you what you need. So have faith in God. Now here at Unity, when I say have faith in God, I don't mean the old man on the throne that's sitting up there looking down upon us, deciding whether we are worthy enough to gain his favor. And I don't mean the God that has been constructed and defined by religion to allow us to be fearful of that God or wonder whether that God is going to come to our aid or not. Once again, I mean the spirit within you. It is much, much greater than any of us can imagine. For 14 billion years, that spirit has evolved through the universe to this place and this time. For 200,000 years with the modern human being, it has allowed us to go from living in caves to singing and being inspired in a wonderful temple like this. The Spirit, when our faith is placed in that, can do anything. But oftentimes, when we're faced with a problem, and it appears like we don't have any faith at all, or our faith is weak, and that is because we're focusing on the problem. And fearfully, we think that problem is much, much bigger than what we can handle. Everybody in this room has exactly the same amount of faith as everybody else. Nobody is lacking in faith. You have the same faith that Jesus Christ himself had. It's just that our attention is not directed towards it at times when we're faced with problems. Now, there's a man who is visiting a foreign land, and he's walking through a field of tall grass one late night, and he heard some rustling off in the grass about 10 feet from him. And he was absolutely sure that it was a lion or a tiger. So he took off and he started running. Running faster and faster and faster through the pitch black darkness. He didn't know where he was going, and he ran right off the edge of a cliff. Well, fortunate for the man, on his way down, he hit a branch that was growing out of the side of the cliff, and he was able to grab a hold of it. So there he was, hanging in the dark, wondering if this was going to be his end. He wasn't a religious man, but he thought, like many of us do when we get ourselves in a tight pinch, might as well pray, it can't hurt anything. So he said, "Dear God, I know that I haven't always been loyal to you. I know that I always haven't attended church. I know that I haven't lived the life that you want me to live. But please save me. Save me from this destination that I am facing." All of a sudden, there's a booming face from the darkness of the sky, and it said, "Let go of the branch." Because, dear God, please don't forsake me. I promise I will change my lifestyle. I will be a good person. I will be a benefit to this earth. Just save me. And the booming voice said, "Let go of the branch." The man said, "Dear God, is there anyone else I can talk to?" And there was silence. So there the man hung in the darkness. His arms started to ache, and he knew it was only going to be moments before he had to let go and fall to his death. And then the sun started to come up, and it splashed across the landscape. And the man looked down, and he was only hanging a foot off the ground. If only he would have taken the advice that God gave him. But he didn't trust in it. He didn't believe it. And it's exactly the same thing with us. We have all the answers we need within us. Everything to solve every problem and move by every challenge. And a lot of times it is just let go. You've all heard the expression, let go and let God. And I say it all the time when I'm faced with a problem. And I'm carrying that problem, and it gets heavier, and it gets heavier, and it weights me down, and it affects every other part of my life. And I'm saying, let go and let God, let go and let God, but I don't. Because I'm afraid. I don't trust God to take care of things. I don't trust myself. I don't trust life to be kind to me. I don't believe that voice within that gives me sound wisdom about how to live my life. There's not a single thing that we can't conquer if we have faith. And I must say that faith springs forward from hope. Faith is the blossom that comes forth from the seed of hope. So it all begins with hope first. You have to look for a brighter future. You have to want something greater than you think you can get. You have to keep your hope strong, because everybody here knows there is nothing more miserable than being hopeless. Not only do we have the power to solve the problems and challenges that come into our lives, but we also have the ability, or the capacity, I should say, to be able to determine or predict what is going to happen in our future. We know if we do a certain thing, a particular thing is going to happen. That is the spiritual principle of law and cause and effect. You do a particular thing happens. You do that same particular thing, the same particular thing happens. But what happens is we go through these problems that we create, and we come out the other side, and wow, I made that. And then we go and we do the same thing again. We don't really register in our mind that we are causing a lot of the situations in our lives. Now, the prophet Isaiah would oftentimes predict the future. And in one writing, he said, I see the earth ravaged. The streams have been polluted. The people are violating the laws of nature. And their ground is parched and there is no food. Pretty dismal forecast. But then at a later time, in a different place with different people, he predicted the future, and he said, I see fresh streams running across the earth. I see the people healthy and happy. I see the parched lands growing food and flowers. I see joy and exultation everywhere. So what was he talking about? How can he have two different predictions of the future that are so drastically different? Well, the thing about it is, his predictions were accurate because he wasn't guessing. He was looking at the lifestyles and the actions and the attitudes of the people, how they were living their lives. And in the first town that he was in, the people cared less about their resources. They cared less about nature. They cared less about healthy living conditions. And he knew that if they continued that way, it was only a matter of time until exactly what he predicted was going to take place. And then when he's in a different town in a different place, it was exactly the opposite. The people were focused on healthy living. They took care of the land. They took care of their streams. They kept everything as healthy as it could be, and he knew that was going to move towards a healthy future. So we can predict what's going on. We know what's going to happen in the future, both in our individual lives and in a global sense. I mean, we know when we look at, say, global warming, for instance, which is a big issue right now, we know that if things continue the way they are, the trend of global warming is going to continue the way it is. It's going to continue to go up and up and up. Unless we make some sort of change, we are going to face situations and circumstances here on Earth that have never been experienced before. They say over 20% of the people will be displaced because of rising sea levels. They said that species will continue to become extinct. And right now, we know that there are 200 species, that's plants, animals, and birds and insects, 200 species that become extinct every hour. Everything hour, and global warming is the cause of that. We know that is the case, and it's 1,000 times more than the natural rate of extinction. So we know that human beings are actually altering nature, and it's not to the positive benefit of human beings. We know that fossil fuels have a great deal to do with global warming. And that is coal and oil and natural gas. And we know that if we continue to use those and pollute our world, the warming is going to continue to go up. I mean, that isn't science. Everybody here can understand that. You do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. But we also know that we have the solution to global warming, or to curtailing carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. We have the solution to contain that and to reverse the situation. The problem is there's people on both sides. At one extreme, one group says the Earth is on its way to extinction itself. There's nothing we can do to reverse this. We have ruined it. On the other side, it says that is all complete bosh, that human beings have nothing to do with increasing the global warming effects on the Earth. And then in the middle, where most of us are, we're just sitting here wondering, what is the truth? What is the truth about it? And to be fair to this side, global warming was temperatures were 4 times greater than they are right now 1,000 years ago during the medieval warming period. So they have a certain foundation for their argument, and they have a certain foundation for their argument. But we have to come to the point, it doesn't make any difference if we as human beings are causing global warming or not. We do know that we as human beings are not helping it. We know that we as human beings are not separate. We're not stepped outside the circle of life with everything else, all other species. We know that we're intricately tied to it. We know that as human beings, with the highest consciousness of any living thing, that is our responsibility to be stewards of the earth for all of life. We know that we can solve this problem, but we have to come together and we have to start looking at solutions. A big one that quite frankly bothers me a lot is that our United States government subsidizes the fossil fuel companies. They get money for doing what they're doing, And yet there's no money from the government put into alternative sources of energy or put into recyclables or any effort to incentivize people to move out and create things that are healthier for us in our country. Other countries in the world are moving in a direction much faster than us. I believe it's Norway that says that they will not have gasoline cars by 2025. It'll all be electric. We have a source of energy, an alternative source of energy called the sun, and the earth is literally bathing in it. It's more power than we could ever use. It has 5,000 times more power than anything else that we can access. Yet the incentives to move towards a solar-based heating system or a car or whatever it might be, there just isn't enough incentive to make that leap. Now the point that I'm trying to make, and it's not a political one at all, but it is that we face problems. That's what life is all about. The history of humankind has been people facing problems one after another, some huge, gigantic problems that nobody thought they would get through, but they did. They solved the problems, they overcame the challenge, because that is what we are made up of. That's what we are wired for, to continue to move forward and to continue to evolve to higher levels of being, not only for our own sake, but for the generations that are coming forward. So as they move into meditation, if you're facing a problem or a challenge right now, allow your moment to just be calm and be at peace. Know that this time too shall pass. Know that you have faith in God, you have faith in life, you have faith in yourself, and you are on a progressive movement forward, and you're not stuck where you're at. We'll now move into meditation.